I'm Dr. Sarah Olivo.
And I'm Dr. Liz Seidler, and you're listening to College is Fine, Everything's Fine. Hi, listeners. I'm so excited today. We have on a very dear friend, an amazing psychologist, and we're going to be discussing problem solving, a skill that I think most people, when they hear it, sounds really basic, but we're in luck, Sarah, because the person we have on today has solved a lot of problems in my life for me. And I'm not joking. She's the most practical, logical, helpful person. And, I think we all can agree that life presents a lot of stressors and problems, some big, some small. And sometimes our emotions can get in the way of us being able to problem solve. And I've been lucky to benefit by having this person in my life. So, Dr. Lindsay Tulchin, introduce yourself.
Wow, thanks, Liz. What an introduction. I appreciate that. And I'm happy to solve all of your problems for the rest of your life if you want me to.
And Lindsay, we've met. I would say that we're friendly colleagues, but apparently, could you be a more prominent person in my life?
Definitely. Just invite me on a girls' trip and I'll get you a rental car.
Oh, you're the exact kind of friend I need.
Oh, so funny.
Well, thank you for having me. I've been waiting for the invite for a couple of years now, so I'm so flattered and honored that I finally got it.
When's Lindsay coming on?
No, I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to talk about the ways in which we solve a problem or two. A little bit about me.
Yes.
Personally.
You get to brag.
Great. So I'm in private practice. I see mostly adults, but I do see a lot of college-age kids. And I specialize in cognitive behavioral therapy. I see a lot of anxiety, OCD, general life stuff. So I have that private practice. And then I also have a group private practice called New York Cognitive that I have with my partner, Dr. Jamie Shump, and we have some clinicians there. I'm faculty at Cornell and at Furcoff in the city, and I'm also the president of NYC CBT Association. And I have a family and 3 kids and, lots of other fun stuff in my life.
Catch your breath. That's a lot of...
I know, it's a lot. It's a whole spiel. It's a whole spiel.
Well, and I think they heard, but you're in New York City, right, Lindsay?
Yeah.
And we'll share in our show notes if you want to learn a little bit more about Lindsay and her practices.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, so let's unpack problem solving, right, Sarah?
Okay, let's get to it. So, problem solving it's very nuanced, obviously, depending on what we're dealing with. But in CBT, we want to help simplify things. And so one of those things is to create sort of a list of steps to take when inundated with a bunch of problems, right? You might be working on determining whether or not there is a problem, right? Are you sort of catastrophizing the situation? Are we maximizing? Are we making a problem where there isn't one? But once we sort of work through all of the nitty-gritty of our distortions and we realize there is a problem to be solved, then a good question is like, well, how do we do that? And so first and foremost, we need to pick one problem and define it. And I think a lot of people have trouble really clearly defining the problem. They may say like, I'm stressed or I'm overwhelmed. I have too much going on. Okay. And then we have to ask, well, what specifically are you overwhelmed by, right? Like, what are the problems that we're trying to solve? And someone may be able to clearly address it for themselves. They may be able to say like, okay, here's my problem. Let's solve it. Other times we need to ask questions. So I think the first step is let's define the problem. Second step, and I think the hardest for a lot of people, is generating solutions. A lot of times what we'll see, someone comes up with an idea of a solution and then they're like, oh no, but that won't work.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is come up with a list of non-judgmental solutions, right? We want to have no judgment when creating this list. And what I usually will suggest is like, let's come up with some bad ideas. Let's start with the bad ideas first to get them out of the way. And that way, anything like later on will actually seem like a good suggestion in comparison to the bad ideas we've already come up with. So we come up with a list of solutions. And I really like paper and pencil. we're working with a lot of young people, so probably we'll use our phones on our notepad or whatever, but like really writing them down to have the visual. So we generate the solutions, and then we have to go through each solution and assess the pros and cons of each solution. What are the strengths of this one? What are the weaknesses? Is this a realistic solution, right? Is it a short-term or a long-term solution? Sometimes we don't have a long-term solution, but we can come up with a short-term solution. What are the obstacles that might get in the way, right? How hard is this solution to implement? How likely is it to work? How might it affect other people? And is that something I need to take into account? So once you go through and you create your list of solutions, you can write your pros and cons down, then you pick the best one. And I think something that is important to point out to people is that there is no perfect solution, right? There is just the best of the bunch. And once we've then generated the bunch, we can pick the best because now we have some idea. We're not looking for a perfect solution because there's usually not one. If there were, we probably would have already done it.
Right.
And so then once you pick the solution that you're going to implement, then you have to plan for it, right? So pick and plan. When are you going to do this? Is this a solution that you implement at a specific day and time? Is it a solution that you're doing in response to a trigger? Like, if someone is saying something, how do I respond? I don't know. I can't determine when I'm going to do it, but here's when I'll do it in response to. And then do I have to do anything to prepare for implementation of that problem or that solution? And then I think a big one is like, how will I remember to do it? So a lot of times you'll go through this with people and we'll come up with a solution and then they just forget. So do we need to put a reminder on your phone? Do we need to put a sticky note on your mirror? Like, what are we doing to help you actually follow through with the solution? And then once you do all that, hopefully they, do it. And then you can come back and say, okay, so did it work? And if not, how can we tweak it? Or if it really didn't work, okay, let's go back to the list. Let's try something else. And so there's those like 5 steps that I think if you sort of keep on your mind, it sort of takes the onus of responsibility of solving a problem, which feels like a big thing, and it makes it a little bit more bite-sized.
Right.
So that's what I go through.
I think having those steps can be really huge because I've found a couple of things and you've mentioned some already, when people start to throw out ideas before they've really thought them through, or it's like, no, it won't work. And I know for people who tend to be anxious, their pattern we know with problem solving is to come up with a lot of ideas, but to kind of throw them out really quickly and worry about them as in terms of outcome. And people who might be prone to more depression just have trouble even generating any. And so what I like about the pen and paper is that, or the finger on the phone, is that it kind of tries to take out some of the head noise a little bit and makes it feel a little more structured, so it can take something that is kind of emotionally overwhelming and say, really, this is how you go through this. It's not a simple process once you have to go through all those various questions and planning, but it also does make it a more simple, solution-focused skill. Right.
And I think also putting it on paper and taking it out of their brain, it might help make it more objective, so you can have a little bit more distance between all the emotions that are circulating in your body and then the actual problem and solutions on the paper.
Right.
I just want to say too, like when Lindsay's describing it, Linz, I'm like, oh my gosh, so lucky to like have Lindsay as a therapist or as a friend, or that I want to be clear that like when you were describing it, like these are things you can do independently, right?
Oh, and this is a skill that you want to learn in therapy and then practice on your own. This isn't something you have to have someone else do with you.
Right. Or if you're not in therapy, right? That the whole point of us teaching you these kind of microdose episodes is that you really have a little bit of a template in terms of how to potentially approach problems. Or I also think going through these steps maybe before you lean on your social support system to kind of, even at some of the steps, maybe you need a friend or a parent or an advisor to help you brainstorm. Maybe you're going through the pros and cons and you're getting stuck on like which one to pick in terms of the solution, that already kind of having a framework on how you're going to approach a problem when you go to ask for help from other people will also usually help the other person more adequately help you, right?
Absolutely.
And they might not be just responding to your emotions or, some of the thinking patterns we can get into when we're really overwhelmed.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say none of the steps that I was just describing are things that like you probably wouldn't already think of, right? It's just a matter of now having a framework to do. And it is a very like bite-sized skill that you can take from here and do on your own with the support of other people if you want that too.
Yeah, and we're going to come up with an area to go through with you just for the students listening to
Yeah,
think about like what does this look like in real life. But
let's do
you
it.
mentioned sometimes putting on the bad idea. One thing I'll often notice is that I'll say, okay, why don't we put down some of the solutions you're currently trying,
Hmm.
and inevitably that might be like I've avoided getting in touch with that professor, and I've
Right.
noticed the person will say, no, but no, that shouldn't go on there because that's a bad idea. And I'm like, well, it's obviously doing something for you because you keep trying it,
Yeah.
right? So let's
Hmm.
at least get to know why you keep
Right.
trying it. You know,
Right.
there's clearly a reason. If it didn't do anything for you, you wouldn't do it over and over again. So what is
Right.
that solution offering you? But I've noticed a lot of times people will kind of not even want to go towards the solution they've already tried. And it's like, all right, well, let's explore that too.
Right. And it's possible that the solution that they've already tried might be like halfway there
Right.
and we can tweak it a little bit and then actually it could be the solution that we end up choosing to implement.
Yeah. And I think one of the things you mentioned that's going to be relevant to this example will come up today is like, what kind of helpers or skills do you need to get to the solution that you want?
Yeah.
So we had, on our previous episode, had someone come and talk a lot about just getting out there and making connections with people over coffee or introducing yourself to people and making sure that those smaller bite-sized conversations are often a great way to have some professional gain down the road, or at least some professional contacts. And this person, it was Mark Reed, who's very, enigmatic and confident. And so Liz and I were thinking, like, what about the people who don't naturally have that instinct that this
Hmm.
person was like born with,
Right.
but who still want to be successful and make those connections? So we thought we'd pose it to you to say, if you've listened to that episode, or if you're somebody who is in the internship or job seeking market, and you know that you need to put yourself out there and do some handshaking and setting up meetings, but there's perhaps social anxiety, or you worry about maybe sort of an imposterism happening. How do you solve that problem? This person needs a job and they know they need to put themselves out there, but it's feeling really overwhelming and they don't know where to start. It's not their first instinct to self-advocate or to approach someone about a coffee date, and so they need a job. They know what they need to do, but they don't know quite how to do it.
Okay. So I want to also make sure we're making a little bit of a distinction between talking through cognitive distortions they may have about their ability to implement this problem or the solution or sort of some anxiety that might be getting in the way. It's sort of a different skill than the problem solving aspect of it because it is more sort of emotionally focused.
Right.
So I would first want to identify like what is the problem here. So this person is, I assume, a senior in college
Hmm.
Yep.
thinking about getting a job for when they graduate. And okay, so is the problem that they don't know what they want to do or they know what they want to do and they don't know how to get there?
Well,
Let's
and I
start
should say we
there.
do talk a lot in our podcast about hypothetical worry versus actual problems. So in this instance,
Exactly.
there's probably some hypothetical worry there. I'm going to bomb this interview and so on and so
Right.
forth. But I think also there's a situation of like, I've never written an email yet on how to approach someone for a coffee date. Like, I don't have the skill set that's necessary. It's a completely new skill for me because I've never done it before.
Hmm.
And, I have also talked with people who've said, I have done it before. I've gone to office hours to ask this professor how to make a connection, but I started crying. So, how do I
Hmm.
not cry the next time I go because I'm so stressed about the job? So, I think that in this particular instance, I'm thinking of the person who was listening to that previous podcast saying, like, okay, I don't know how to do what this person said. I don't know how to get in touch with somebody I don't know.
Okay, so let's have the problem. Let's define the problem as Sarah is a senior in college and she really wants to get a job she wants to be a psychologist. And in order to be a psychologist, she needs to do some research after school to get into grad school. Let's just make that the hypothetical problem, right? So, how is she going to even start to make connections to potentially interview for a job?
Hmm.
Okay, that's our problem.
Yep.
So, let's think of some really bad ideas, solutions first. Any bad ideas? What are you doing now, I guess? Let's role play this.
Oh,
Senior
me?
Sarah.
Senior Sarah? Senior Sarah. Oh, we don't have to role play. Let's just go back in my little Rolodex of memories, and I would probably put it off, right?
So you'd be avoiding it. That's a solution.
I would avoid it. Yeah, I would have been like, you know what? I'd have some excuse for why I don't need to do it today or this week.
Okay, so solution number one is just never do it and hope and pray that it falls into your lap.
Yes.
Okay, that's one. All right. Another one, maybe another bad one that's more active.
Maybe like blindly, like sending kind of like a form email, like asking for job opportunities within like the department. I don't know. I think like
Actually, I don't think that's so bad.
okay.
That's fine. That's good. She's like, sorry, I can't come up with any bad ideas. It's good. I think that could go on our list. So sending basically the same email.
Yes, the same email.
Okay.
It's like psychology departments, just being like, do you
Okay.
need a research assistant?
Okay.
Putting all your eggs in one basket, maybe being like, I really want this one particular job, so I'm only going to go after that.
Yeah. Okay, that's one. Okay, another one would be maybe trying to find someone who's already graduated in this role that you could ask, hey, how did you go about doing this?
Mhm.
And then maybe that person could give you some guidance, Senior Sarah, in terms of like how to proceed. So actually asking someone for help with this problem, because this is a problem that's already been solved before, right? By another person.
Right.
So if you know that that's the case and you have access to a person who's been through this problem before and has solved it, ask them. That's a great idea. Okay.
Are we still in good ideas or bad ideas?
Oh, sorry. It's hard to generate the
I think giving up sometimes, like this is like where I'll see some people are like, you know what, maybe I just shouldn't even do this. You know, like they'll like choose a completely different career path, like applying for like administrative assistant positions that are not even in, because they're like, oh, this would just be easier than doing the thing that I want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
So avoidance and giving up are bad ideas, right? That we could put on the solutions oriented. But I think another bad idea that like I'm sort of trying to get the idea behind it, like it would be going into your psychology department at your college and screaming at the top of your lungs, I need a job, right? Like that's not a great idea. It is a solution.
Yeah.
It's not a great one.
Making threats to people if they don't get me a job.
Yeah. Threatening. Yeah, that's a solution. Okay. But like, do you see how we're sort of like really making a list of very non-judgmental solutions? So that way when Liz generates the idea of like sending an email to a psychology department, we're like, okay, that's actually not so bad in comparison to.
You forget a lot of people have chosen some really bad solutions to this for sure. I was thinking another one would be giving up, but a more subtle version of that is like just doing something, you know, oh, mom or dad or so-and-so already has a job for me.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly what I want, but it's a familiar place.
Yeah.
Yes.
So throw that on the list.
Okay. That's a good one. Let's go with maybe some better solutions at this point. So I would say, okay, one idea would be, hey, everyone has access to ChatGPT now. Like, what about just putting into ChatGPT, how can I write an email to a psychology department that shows my experience and what I'm interested in doing? Okay, so because Sarah, you had said, like, I don't even know how to write an email. ChatGPT is a great way to start. Right. I usually wouldn't say to just cut and paste and send. That's a solution. That's not a great solution. But maybe a better solution might be putting something into ChatGPT, editing it down, maybe sending it to one person to look at, and then, you know, obviously we can send that one off. Now, a bigger question is also like, who am I sending this to, right? So how can you come up with a list of people that you're sending this to? Well, you're in a college, right? You're already in an academic institution. So the professors that you've actually had, it's a great place to start. So we can start with that as being, I'm sort of like obviously doing this very succinctly, but maybe we go through a list of the pros and cons, and what we've come to is like a solution here would be using ChatGPT to help like hone in on what it is that you're asking for in language that maybe you couldn't produce on your own, making it tailored to you and sending it to your advisor or
Mm-hmm.
sending it to a professor that you thought had like a softer side to them that might be able and willing to help.
Right. And career centers often, most likely, will have some sort of alumni network
Hmm.
who's already put themselves voluntarily on the list to be contacted for things like this, whether it's a job opportunity or
Yep.
mentorship or question around
Yep.
a certain topic or job you're interested in. So that's another resource I think that is there that we could add to the solution in terms of just pulling in the contacts and the people you're going to ask.
Yeah. So, okay, then we'll say, all right, Senior Sarah, when can we send this email? Well, this is something that's sort of like you can send it after you feel comfortable, or no, that's not a great solution because you might not ever feel comfortable. But let's say let's have a goal to send this by 3 p.m. tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we'll sort of go through like, is there any obstacles that might get in the way? What do you have the rest of today? Can you work on this today? Well, yes, I can work on the rest of today, but maybe I want to send it to my mom to look over or something like that. She might not be able to get it back to me till the next day. Okay, so maybe in 2 days at 3 p.m.
Right.
And then we would say, all right, how are you going to remember to do that? Well, I love reminders, the
Mm-hmm.
reminders app on my phone. I use it constantly all throughout my day. And I think it's really great for something like this. It could have a reminder later to like, start doing it. And then it's remind tomorrow morning to send it to mom, and then reminder at 2 p.m. Okay, send this email now.
I also think that especially if there's a kind of a social anxiety component or just feeling like, oh, I just have this dread, to set yourself up and pair, kind of have someone else. You say, all right, I need to do this thing. Come with me. Let's both go to, grab lunch. And while we're doing that, I get my annoying thing out of the way. You get your annoying thing out of
Yeah,
the way. Kind of like the same way we
love
always
it.
say gym partner, almost
Hmm.
like
Like an accountability buddy.
an accountability buddy, just to do that, and then reward yourself afterwards with something fun.
Right.
Love that.
All right, once we
Hmm.
get out of the dread place, we know that we're going to be able to go and really enjoy X, Y, and Z activity without this in the back of our head, just that
Yeah.
niggling sort of ugh in the back of our
And
head.
it feels productive to actually do something to solve a problem, right?
Yeah.
We talk all the time with people about unproductive worry and how
Yes.
it doesn't feel good because there's nothing that's actually coming from it because you're not working toward a solution or solving a problem. So, we can talk about sort of how good this will feel once you actually take a step, even if it's not going to work, at
Mm-hmm.
least it's something. And then we can always go back to the drawing boards, right? So what's the fifth step? The fifth is evaluate, right? So let's say you write this email, you send it to your advisor, and your advisor comes back with, hey, I can't help you, but here's someone else who can. Okay, great. So now we have something else to work on. We can go back and tweak it. We can work on doing some more of the steps. We can always go back and redo the steps. But now at least you have some path forward.
Right. Right. I also think that what I love about how you set this up is the first problem to solve is writing the emails to set up the conversations.
Hmm.
And then someone else might say, okay, but what do I do once the coffee is scheduled? It's like
That's
totally
another
solve
problem.
that problem once we're there. So a lot of
Yes.
times that worry, and where I think people confuse worry with problem solving, is they'll worry about
Right.
all the factors and are like kind of in one big balloon as opposed to saying, let's solve this particular problem because the
Right.
next one isn't actually a problem yet. You don't
Yes.
have the problem yet of having to go to that cafe or
Hmm.
what have you because
Hmm.
that isn't a step that you're at yet.
Right.
So we
Right.
can put that's not productively a problem solving until that's actually a problem. For now, that's a worry.
Right.
That's a
And we
hypothetical.
just don't have enough details about that
Yeah,
problem yet in order to start solving it. So
right.
let's wait. It's not,
Yeah,
we're not procrastinating solving the problem that could happen 10 steps down the road. We're just waiting to get more information so we can productively solve it.
right.
Cool. So now
Um,
you have a job. Congrats.
I'm so excited. Look, I'm a psychologist already. That was quick.
So fast.
Lindsay, this was wonderful. I will definitely have a visual that we will share around the steps in problem solving.
Great.
There's so many examples that come up in college, and I'm sure we could sit here forever talking about how to implement these skills. I really hope that people feel like more hopeful, that they don't have to kind of jump to accepting something that's solvable
Yeah,
in terms of stressors in their life. And thank you for being on.
of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was good to see you. I can't wait
You
for us to be
too.
new best friends so you can solve all my problems.
All right. Bye, Lindsay.
Happy. Okay. Bye.
Thank you to our guests for sharing their stories and their advice. This podcast is for college students, and we want input by college students, so please reach out by text, email, or voice memo to collegesfinepodcast@gmail.com or 929-500-2231. Tell us your story, give us tips on topics you'd like to hear, or give us feedback about an episode.
Follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Colleges Fine Podcast for episode announcements and resources. And last but not least, if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast. Every hit of that plus button helps us keep going.